Park Podcast, the only place you can hear banter and debate from both sides of Stanley Park, whether it be blue or red. Sponsored by Their Clothing and Camper Kings UK. Hello, welcome to Across the Park podcast. Myself, Ian Mills, joined by my red brother, Phil Roberts. Delighted to be joined back on the podcast for the first time on the YouTube channel. Mr. Mick Rathbone. I was going to call you Baz there. Is it okay to call you Baz, Mick? Or
I would prefer to be called Baz. It's my nom de guerre.
Okay, we're delighted to be joined by Mick Baz Rathbone.
Thank you very much for inviting me on. I've done loads of these recently since my book came out and that. And every time I come on, I think to myself, God, you look terrible. And I look at my neck and I think, oh my God, it's like a scraggy chickens. And I'm thinking that now.
Jesus Christ, Baz, if yours looks bad, I don't know what mine and Phil's looks like. I think you're putting us to shame. You look fantastic for, what is it, 63?
Yeah, I was 63 last week and I did my annual fast lap. Got inside the time again. I started that when I was 50. Funnily enough, Ian, it was a lot harder when I was 50. And every year I've got the extra second. So I did it quite comfortably, actually, the other day.
What's that, Baz? What do you do every year?
I have to do a lap of the training pitch. Obviously, at Finch Farm, it's Goodison sized. I have to do a lap of the pitch in the seconds of my birthday. So when I was 62 last year, I had to do it in 62. I first started when I was 50. And this year I did it in 63 seconds. So I don't know how long I'll continue. Actually, I'll say it's getting easier.
I might have to adopt that.
I was going to say, from the stories I've heard, Baz, you're only going to get fitter and fitter. And the stories that I'm talking about are from your two amazing books. The first one, The Smell of Football, and the second one, The Smell of Football 2, the follow-up. Now, anyone who's just joined our YouTube channel, we used to be a podcast, audio only, and Baz kindly gave us nearly 90 minutes talking about his Everton career, his first Everton career, where he was the head physio under David Moyes, and from 2002 right up until 2010. So we're not really going to cover that. There might be one or two road questions we'll try and drag Baz into if we can, but the majority of that is over on the website, Across the Park Podcast, .co.uk. Nearly 90 minutes of Baz talking Wayne Rooney's
well done for that. Talk. Many managers I played for have tried their best to get 90 minutes out of me. You have to do it, so well done, guys.
We won't go that long tonight, Baz. I promise you. We're here majority to welcome you back to the show and talk about The Smell of Football 2. So first of all, why a follow-up? Why a second book? Tell us all about it.
Okay, a lot of reasons, Ian. When the first book came out, it was a fantastic experience. And I had loads of amazing moments. Like, for example, I was away with one of the England teams. We were in Cambridge. And we took them into Cambridge to look at the sites and all the architecture and the colleges and that, like, you know, Zara and Monsoon for most of the lads, to be fair. But me and the doc looked round. And then we went into the Waterstones. This is in, like, August 2011. And on the top floor, there's a massive table. And my book was bedecked all over that top table, right next to Alex Ferguson's new book. And the doc took all Fergie's books down, put them under a cupboard and put my books on both tables. So the thing is, to go into a bookshop 250 miles from home and see your book, it's an incredible experience. I've sat on the beach in Crete and seen people reading my book. I've seen people at the airports with it. There was a period where people would just send photos from all around the world, from the Sydney Opera House with the book, and from the Pyramids with the book, and from Mixu Pacha, whatever it's called, with the book. So it was a great experience. And I was very lucky and honoured that it won a lot of awards. And that made me very proud. And I always liked English literature when I was at school. And I fancied that I could write a good book. And not just because of the stories, but a high-quality tome, high-quality tome that will be well accepted as a kind of good contribution to sports literature. And then over the last 9-10 years, when lots of other stuff was happening at loads and loads of different clubs, and the thread then changed. It went from being about confidence to being about, like, getting older and feeling somewhat increasingly distant from the modern day games, the modern day football with all the new technology And that's kind of the layering of the second book. As I say, it goes to 10 different clubs all over the country, all over the world almost. And I really like the second book. What I didn't want the second book to be was like a CRAP version of the first book. And I took loads and loads of time and care. And it's been reviewed by some people and they spoke very highly. And I'm very proud of it. And on a mercenary point of view, when you sell one in Waterstones, you only get £1. But when you sell them on your own website, you get significantly more. So it's quite exciting to put your iPad on in the morning and see the orders. I was going to say flooding through. I'm going to say trickling through. But it's a really good book, and I'm really proud of it. The only good thing about it is I won't have to do any book signings because it's only on a website. And when the first book came out, that was the worst part of it. And once the editor phoned me up from London, he said, Baz, there's been a request from Waterstones in central Liverpool to do a book signing this Saturday. So I made up some kind of excuse. I don't know, it's my mum's 100th birthday or something like, And they said, no, you have to do it. I thought, oh my God, no. I know what's going to happen. I'm going to go there in that big central square in Liverpool, the Waterstones.
Yes.
And no one's going to come. And they said, no, you have to do it. So I got there at 8 o'clock and I went into the big square. Of course, the shops weren't open anyway. And I looked in the window and there was a massive picture of me on the window in my Everton kit with my run-on bag. Here today, successful author, smell the football and all that. And then in the bookstore, there was a massive table with hundreds of books on and a single Sharpie pen. And I thought to myself, oh my God, imagine sitting there for 2 hours and nobody coming. So I felt like sick with fear. Anyway, I had an hour to kill. So there's a little coffee near around the corner out of sight. And I went in there and sat there like hugging a cappuccino for an hour. And then it got to like 5 to 9. I thought, well, I have to do it. And I walked into the big square and there was a massive queue. Now, I just thought they'd opened another pound shop, something like that. But it turned out it was a queue for the book. Yeah. And I sat on my little chair that day with the Sharpie. And, oh, my God, Ian, it was the most amazing experience of my life. Hundreds of people came in. John Barnes came in. I played against John. In fact, I didn't recognise him from the front. He came in. He got a copy as well. I sold every single copy on what remains the greatest day of my life. And then just when you thought things couldn't get any better, and I want this on my grave, the lady manager of the shop came home and she said, you had a bigger queue than James Corden.
Boss. Nose book I'd rather read.
You cannot ask for more than that. A bigger queue than James Corden.
No, boss. I mean, I've read both books. That first book, I said to you on the first podcast we did together, you nearly got me, Baz, divorced before I got married. I went to Egypt with my soon-to-be wife, and I played that card game, that drinking card game that you put in your first book. Good God. Good God. Should be illegal.
I don't think that. Thank God, I don't think that would happen nowadays.
No, Jesus, we went to an all-inclusive, so we could get the spirits and stuff and the card games, and I think I missed about 3 days out of 7 because of the hangovers. So, good God. But what Baz is talking about there, the website, please go over. If you're going to buy The Smell of Football 2, there's only one place to buy it. It is over on the website, which is The Smell of Football 2.co.uk. It is currently available for $14.99. An absolute bargain for a football book, which is going to cover almost a decade of Baz's career. The first book is still amazing. One of my favourites, Baz, that first book you did. One of my absolute favourites. It covered... We've been through it on the first podcast, but it covered so much detail of Everton Football Club. The second book, you were back at Everton Football Club. Can I ask how that happened? Why did you come back to Everton Football Club? How did that happen?
Do you know something, Ian? The second book, as I get older than that, and I start thinking more about fate. And in the second book, loads of things happen that were just fate, coincidence, one of those things. And as I travelled through the book in those 11 years, I started to think there's more to this than just mere random stuff and that, And then the final chapter happens in another part of the world with a guy, and everything comes kind of to make sense. And it was a kind of road to Damascus-like thing. And all the time in the book, as I'm getting older and fearing getting older and hating getting older, I finally come to terms with getting older. And I always have this thing in the book about wanting to get to 60. And I don't know why it always was. When I was young, and I was like 17, I played for Birmingham City in the first team. And I was only 17, which is a hell of a feat. But the commentators would say 19-year-old defender, 20-year-old defender. I think, no, I'm only 17. And famously, I was playing for Blackburn at Goodison Park in the mid-80s. And you beat us 3-1 in the end. We got back to 2-1, actually. We played well, 42,000 at Goodison Park that day in the early 80s. We got beat 3-1. And the commentator on the radio said that Gary Stevens and Trevor Stephen were working the ball out down the right flank to take advantage of the ageing veteran Rathbone's legs. 26. I was 26. So I had that. All through my life, I had that. And the book's about loads and loads of referencing that, where people always thought I was a lot older. And then when I get back from, when I get back from that road to Damascus thing and to become comfortable in my very saggy skin, I get home and the phone's and I pick it up and it's Danny Donachie. He says, Baz, come back to Everton. And I say, yeah. And I knew the call was coming. And I expected it, and it was kind of the last piece of the jigsaw. It completed the circle. It was my 60th birthday that day. Absolutely incredible. I went back. It was magical. The first prologue of the book is me driving into Finch Farm for the first time in 10 years. Yeah. Noticing that the sign that said Mick Rathbone, head of medical, next to David Moyes, manager, had both gone. Obviously mine quite a few years before. And the first chapter is about that incredible day I left the club, what happened between me and Dave, who remains my very best friend. Yeah. And then I go on my journey to these 10 different clubs, end up back at Everton, and then the end of the book is about Everton in the last couple of years. I was very honoured and privileged during Project Restart. Danny asked me to go in with the first team for a month. So there I was, full circle, in with Yerry and Fabian and Andre Gomez and Lucas Diener and amazing opportunity, to be around such a fantastic left back. I hope he enjoyed it.
No, I imagine he did. Now, me and Phil were talking off air about coming on the podcast, and me and Phil spoke about Project Restart. Now, Phil's obviously a Liverpool fan, and Project Restart was really important to Phil because what it meant that Liverpool could eventually go on and do. What was it like to be part of a Premiership club during that COVID-19 Project Restart? It must have been chaos.
Ian, it reminded me of the movie, is it Legend, where it's Will Smith and the Alsatian?
I Am Legend, yeah.
It's post-apocalyptic. So I drive to Finch Farm. The barrier's up. Normally the barrier's down. There's people there. The barrier's up. You're driving. There's like no cars. You follow the sign. You park. I've been in the 2 days before for my test anyway. I get out the car. There's hardly anybody there. I don't go in the main entrance. I'm routed round the back through the big sports hall. I'm approached by a man dressed as an alien. He walks towards me and he points a gun to my head, a thermometer gun, and he goes, Baz, you can walk through. I say, thanks, Doc. And then I walk right round the back into the gym where only the injured players are, because the fit players come in straight to the pitch and go. So me, Danny, in all obviously gowns and masks and that. I think we had Yerry, Andre, Cenk Tosin,
long term,
Fabian. There were the four of them and me and Danny. I think that was a 6 maximum in the gym, and we worked in there. And then I took Yerry outside, and it was an amazing experience because I hadn't worked with such top flight players for a long time, and I kind of slipped into that mindset of they're pampered, they're spoiled, they have no personalities, and it couldn't be further from the truth. And they were such nice guys, and they were so very, very nice and welcoming to me. And I worked with Yerry, and I'd learnt Spanish, so me and Yerry only spoke Spanish, and we went outside. It was absolutely an incredible icing on the cake almost. And as I say, the other guys were so friendly and so generous towards me of spirit. And then Ancelotti came in one day and he said hi, and I said, oh, I'm Baz, I'm only here for a month. And the lads would say, no, Baz is here permanently now. He stays with the first team now. So, absolutely fantastic and very, very emotional. Yeah, great experience. Yeah.
I remember you, Phil, you were having kittens during Project Restart, weren't you?
Well, of course, yeah, because it meant the world to us, didn't it? Yeah, I really didn't. I started to worry that it was never going to happen. I think actually, you're talking about the restrictions that got put in place that enabled football to restart. I actually think that hurt Liverpool the next season, though, because sort of the camaraderie and the feeling and the togetherness of the team seemed to drift away a little bit. I heard Klopp say that things weren't the same, because people couldn't all be in the same room, you couldn't eat together and all that. Did you feel any of that yourself, Baz, being in and around the club?
I enjoyed working with the first team for those magical 4 weeks, but the whole experience, especially the year after with the 23s, me and Joe, the other physio, and the doc, we didn't enjoy it. And it's hard to enjoy it because I am all about that medical room, the jokes, the banter with the young lads. It's the most amazing, electrically charged place, I would say, at the club to be in there. And that we couldn't have that. And even on practical things, we do all the strapping and stuff in the big sports hall. And it's virtually impossible to strap an ankle and put the stirrups on when you've got gloves on, they're sticking to your hand and stuff like that. Going outside, me and Danny Webb, the kit man, we'd wash everything down afterwards, bring all the stuff in, wash it all down. It just felt so wrong and so false. And then the guys were going straight off after training. We couldn't really do our gym sessions. Every afternoon before then, I take all the injured lads into the swimming pool and we'd have a 30-length race, really. You could either do 6.5s, 5.6s, 3.10s, a 1 off 30. And it was a great 40 minutes in the afternoon, a real blow, a real good laugh. That went out of it. So all the things we liked were kind of washed away. And it came down to just that kind of process of being football and automatons going out, doing your football in the drinks bottles 6 feet apart from each other and stuff like that. So it was a necessary evil. Everton get everything right, I would say. Others may not. The people who came in and they marshalled the process, they did it with a real soft touch and a really friendly personal touch that made it easier and more user-friendly because it was so complicated. The whole thing went well as it ever could work well. But, it is a team game and it's in the dressing room game and it's not all in the same bath game anymore, but that's the game it is. It's not an insular game. It's not a single individual sport, So we lost all the things I loved about it. And every morning we get there, we go upstairs and me and Joe go and seeUms and give the report. Then we go and have some toast. Then we come down, everyone in the medical room, for the banter, the jokes, the soft tissue, the strappings, all that went out the window. After training, everybody upstairs for lunch and then in the pool. So all those kind of essential facets of football went, and it was just reduced to the kind of physical robot-like going out, warming up, five-a-side, boxes. Now, hey, that's still pretty enjoyable, but the magical other stuff went away from it,
Yeah.
It's crazy because us as fans, we don't realise the impact inside these clubs. We just want football back. I mean, some supporters, maybe more than most, Phil was one of those, but we don't realise the implications it has on staff, players, and what that could result in on Saturday or Sunday when the team and staff are trying to get 3 points. Because it was a whole new world, wasn't it? But just to move away a little bit from that, so you came back to Everton. Was it 2018, Baz, you came back? Or?
Yeah. And physio left, went to Man City. Danny Donachie phoned me up on my 60th birthday. I kid you not.
Yeah.
I got back from the life-altering experience. So I was a new person anyway. The call I knew was coming came. I went in. I said I would. That was November. The 23s won the double that year. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I said I would stay to the end of the season. At the end of that season, I decided I was going to leave. So I went to see Unsworth, who was a close friend of mine when I was a physio before. And I'll never forget, he'd just been presented with a fabulous award by Bill Kenwright, which he absolutely deserved because we won the double. It was amazing what those lads did. And I waited till everybody had gone. So it's probably May the 5th, the end of that season. And I went upstairs and Unzi was tucking into his lasagna, may have been cannelloni. Tucking in he was on his own. And I looked at him and I said, Dave, I said, I'm leaving in a month's time. And he just said to me, F off, Baz. Awkward, isn't it, that? So I kind of walked away and walked back. I said, no, seriously, mate, I only came for 6 months and that, like, you know, thanks for everything, but I'm giving my 4 weeks notice in that. He went, Baz, are you deaf? F off. So I walked a few yards away again and I thought, right, I need to tell him I'm leaving. Like, I only have to give a month's notice. So I went in again and said, no, Dave, I'm leaving in a month's time as part of my notice. He says, right, Baz, you've got 5 seconds to get out of here because I'm getting effing angry now. And we don't want to see Rhino. We don't want to see the Rhino angry. And I walked away and said to myself, I'm going to have to stay another year. Of course, what Dave was saying in his own inimitable way was, come on, give us another year. The lads have got a lot of good young players at the club. Come on. You seem to be relatively popular around the place. Come on, what's another year to this club? And as JFK famously said, you know, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Now, obviously, you know what happened to him. But anyway, I stayed on, and everything went really well. And, you know, we don't want to be too smolchy, but, God, it's no hardship to work for Everton, is it? And I say in the book, when I come back for the first time, wow, who gets to work for Everton twice? So
no, I again going back to I was reading that chapter and it felt like, and I know you're not a boyhood Evertonian, so I'm not going to make out that you are, but it felt like an Evertonian at times was writing that book. Do you feel sort of, not that you are an Evertonian, but do you feel really close to Everton still?
I am an Evertonian, and I played. Birmingham was my schoolboy team. I had all the pictures on the wall. And I was born by the stadium, played my first games for them. I physioed and played for Preston, so that's the only club I've done both things for. But yeah, I still consider myself an Evertonian. And it all goes back to, you know, that the statement we all love, you know, Evertonians are born, not made. And when I first went to the club, I remember Alan Irvine saying to me, like, you know, there's something special about this place. And I don't know, maybe in just saying that, like, oh, don't go in there, it's haunted, I don't know. But it left an amazing impact. And, of course, it is great. And it was a great time in my life as well to be there at that quite exciting time of Wayne's emergence and that. And really, you know, I close my eyes now. Probably my third game was that goal against Arsenal. And then every time we went away from home, as soon as the coach pulled into, I don't know, High Street Spurs, High Street Charlton, High Street Middlesbrough, all you can see is like Everton fans. Every time Wayne got the ball, everybody stood up. Just the things, the hair stand on the back of my neck now, like, you know. So I was so lucky.
And I don't want to put you on the spot, and I don't want any intel or internal knowledge here. But maybe as a supporter, I look at the David Moyes era as a full stop, and I think things have changed since then. I don't think Everton have quite got it right. I think maybe there was a small period under Roberto Martinez. There was a small period under Carlo where it looked like it was getting it. But long term, we don't really seem to have an identity, a plan. Can you relate with that? Do you think there's better days ahead for Everton, or is it very different from when you were there under David Moyes?
It's difficult. You know, when the money comes into a club, there's going to be a change, isn't there? So the best players aren't all from Merseyside or England anymore. So it becomes more continentalised, more worldwide club. Yeah. That's inevitable. In terms of that magic that we had at Belfield, particularly, you know, the atmosphere, the camaraderie, and took it to Finch Farm as well, and had some great years there, like, you know. But the most I felt that again in my last 3 years there was when Big Dunk took over, and Big Dunk was an absolute inspirational signing, an appointment and that. And there was a little bit of disenfranchisement with Marco Silva, who everyone said was a really top bloke. But I guess they're under so much pressure now that they can't really care that much about the under-12s. They've got a couple of good players, can they, I guess? Because they're 3 straight defeats away from losing their job. So I don't wholly blame them for that. But it became separated and it became a little bit insular, the first team, and we felt a bit distant from it. And then when Duncan came in, all of a sudden, he put his arms around the club. He pulled everybody in. Even he would come up into our restaurant and tell jokes, usually at my expense, about the good old days and that, like, you know. And not only did he lift the club in those, I don't know, 3 wins out of 4, whatever it was, plus the cup game and that, he did a great thing to restoring all that passion. And in those probably 4 or 5 weeks, it felt like it felt before for me, like when I was at Belfield. Yeah. And that's nobody's fault, really, Ian. I thought when Ancelotti came in, it was really, really good. I thought he understood the club. I thought he really got it. The lads he brought in, the Italian guys, were really friendly and charming. And as I say, he was very approachable and charming and friendly, and didn't try too hard, didn't have to try too hard. It was less is more. And he came, I think, in my experience, very close to recreating that stuff. But then, you know, are you going to leave Everton for Real Madrid? I suppose people are.
That's fair. Yeah.
I felt a bit disappointed because he said all the right things and he kind of promised that he would re-energise the club, and we thought he got it. And he came in with all the right stuff and the right atmosphere and the passion, and then he went. And I don't blame him, but I do blame him a little bit because he promised, didn't he? He promised the good times would come, and I think they would have done. And then they went like, and it was in decent haste, a difficult thing to say, I guess. And you know, you know, if I'm working at Salford City now, if Real Madrid, and my Spanish is very good now, if Real Madrid come for me tomorrow, would I go? I probably would. You know, I don't know. So it was a little. I felt a little bit. It left a bad taste for me because he was the guy who was going to recreate those magic days, and when he was here, it felt good. You could have a laugh, and you were accessible to the first team. They were in the gym a lot at the same time, and I knew a lot of the lads from before anyway. I knew a lot of lads like Tom Davies and Jordan from the England teams, and all of a sudden we're all together again and having a laugh and a joke, and then it kind of went. So difficult.
It feels to me like I blinked and it happened. It just I look at photos now and I see Carlo Ancelotti next to James Rodriguez at Finch Farm, and I just think, wow, good God, that actually really happened. I didn't dream that. But you've just mentioned a word you mentioned there, Baz, and I want to move on to the end of the podcast now, is Salford, because your book, The Smell of Football 2, a lot of it, I'm getting the impression that during this book, you're retiring. Throughout the book, you're moving towards retirement, and you've come on the podcast and you are still working at Salford. What is it, Baz, that keeps pulling you back into the game of football?
Okay, so 5 years ago, and 5 clubs ago, I retired. I was at Wigan. We played Leeds at home. I did my last ever strapping. I threw my boots away and walked away, proud of my career. It was time to devote time to my wife. I've been away a lot, especially with the England teams and with the Premier League teams. You're away every night and that. And we went to Malaga and we sat on the beach, and I stared and I thought, it's our time now. Let's grow old gracefully. And I looked and I thought, you know, I'm not going away. I'm going to be by your side now for the rest of my life. What? Phone ringing. Dave Weir. Hello, Dave. Hiya, it's Dave Weir. You come to Forest as head physio. I'm on my way. She can wait. Not another year. So I went to Forest. I lived there for a year. I loved that club. It reminded me so much of Everton in every way. I love Warburton. I like Karanka as well very much. It was an incredible experience. I could only stay for a year. We played Bolton away last game of the season. I thought to myself, if I put my last ever strapping on, I surely have. The final whistle went. I threw my boots away. I got some fantastic presents from the Forest players, a watch and a really expensive Paul Smith bag. I gave a quite short speech because I wanted to Google the value of the bag because I knew they're about 800 quid. So I kept the speech up. And then I retired. And then I went and did this. I went and did the work in the Caribbean. And we had, I said I could only do 4 games. And I did the 4th game on the 4th international break. And I thought to myself, I'm putting the last ever strapping on. This is it. And the game finished. And I threw my boots away. They didn't buy me a present, actually. But no hardship. And I retired. And then I went into Everton. And then last summer, I put my last ever strap and did my last ever game. And the lads bought me a fabulous watch and a fabulous credit card for Hugo Boss and that, like, you know. And I threw my boots away and I walked away. Straight to WeBuyAnyCar.com, sold my car. That's it, it's over. Then a guy called Chris Casper phoned from Salford. And he said, the physio's left quite quickly. We haven't got a physio. I said, mate, 10 years ago, 10 years ago maybe. And then I put the phone down. I thought, oh, if I got nobody, I'm probably just slightly better than nothing at the moment. So I phoned him back. I said, I'll come for a week. And I stayed for a couple, then a month. I said I'd stay till my birthday when I was 63 a couple of weeks ago. And then a couple of lads locked me in the dressing room and said they wouldn't let me out unless I said I would stay longer. So I didn't want to be locked in the dressing room, so I stayed longer. And then last night I was putting another strapping on. And I thought, this isn't probably the last strapping because we're playing Oldham Saturday. So it's always followed the familiar stuff. And I realised every time you leave, you get stuff, don't you? So I've got some watches and I've got loads of really nice presents. So I thought, you know, say you're going to leave, get your presents. You can always go back next pre-season. No one's going to mind. So I became like a magpie leaving presents. So that's where I am. So I've got loads of watches upstairs.
So your career now, Baz, are you taking it season by season? Have you got any sort of plan, even without revealing it to us now? Have you got an end goal in mind, or is it season by season for you?
Do you know what? Somebody asked me today, why do you keep going in that? And because I think when somebody says, we really, really would like you to stay, it's really flattering. And I really like it there. And it's not Finch Farm. It's not the Premier League. It's not the international scene. But it has its own magic. The people who work there, there's so many fewer, oxymoron, there's so many fewer of them. But they love the club like you and the more staff at Everton love Everton. They love it in the same way, and it means the world to them. At the lower levels, the players' expectations are much less, obviously, because we have less stuff. We don't have any machines, we don't have any stuff. And not that I'm necessarily looking for gratitude, but when you do stuff, I do all the outside running with the players still, they are so grateful that you can do that. And that is very satisfying on a personal level. So I do enjoy it. I really like the players. You know, those League Two games last night, we're playing Bristol Rovers at home. There was a couple of thousand on. Bristol Rovers bought 500 or 600. They were winning comfortably 1-0. We had a player sent off, another player sent off. My God, we equalised late on with 9 players. Then they put up 11 minutes, so we had to suffer that. And we ended up with a great draw. And in the dressing room afterwards, well, there's no chef, but there are loads of Papa John pizzas. We're sharing the pizzas, we're laughing, we're joking. There's no ice chambers, there's none of that stuff. But in the same way, that magic of that 1-1 draw with Bristol Rovers is almost as good as the magic of beating Man United on pens back in 2019, was it? No, 2009.
2009, yeah.
2009.
Baz, you hear a lot of players when they retire saying the thing that they miss most is the banter, is the camaraderie, more so than the playing. And you sort of found a way to continue that after your football retirement for the rest of your life, haven't you?
I was so lucky because I was a really nervous player and I love the Monday to Friday. And I used to think to myself, wouldn't it be great if you were a footballer and you didn't have games? You just trained and got the same money. But obviously that was never going to happen. So I found it quite difficult, my career, which I wrote about in book 1. So I've managed to stay in the game, have all the banter, obviously, and all the good times and that, without actually having to go and cross the line, you know. So I've been very, very fortunate in those ways. And as I say, it's really interesting because I always looked old and people thought I was older. And the day I walked back into Everton, I think I was 60 in a day. And somebody said to me, how old are you, Baz? And I said, I'm 60. And wait for it, they said, you don't look 60. And that's the first time since I was 17 years of age somebody said that. And it was the greatest moment of my life. And I kind of, I reference point in the second book about all these things that happened to me. When I had my 3rd operation on my knee, this was about, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. I was in my mid-50s. I was young in them days. I went to the local gym and I went in one day and there's a couple of nurses sat there. I thought, oh, it must be some health drive initiative from Blackburn and Darwin Council. And I said, morning, ladies. And they went, oh, excuse me, sir. Are you heart attack or angina? Heart? God, I'm 10K in 36 minutes. That's what I am. And then I've done all my rehab. True story. I've done my rehab. On the way out 3 months later, I got friendly with some old guys. They were probably younger than me. And on the way out, the bloke goes, Baz, he goes, we've been watching you train and that, like, you know, would you be interested in joining the walking football team? My first day at Forest, I drove in. The guy goes, "Have you come to fix the showers?" God, unbelievable.
It's the ball's head, isn't it?
Yeah.
The ball's head.
Yeah.
It ages
Yeah.
you, doesn't it?
The best one of all, though, was when I worked at Man U for those couple of years. We had lads on loan at Antwerp. I thought I'll go over and see what's going on. They had a Friday night game, and as you know, Belgian people drink a lot of beer. They won 5-0. I went into like the lounge, the players, and after people were well P-I-S-S-E-D, like, you know.
Right.
Anyway, I had my Man U suit on. I had my reading glasses on and my Man U suit. I went in there, and when I walked in, there was a kind of, you know, when you're a little bit famous, only a little bit, you do become aware of that kind of nudging of people when you walk in. And I thought, my God, has the smell of football made it all the way to Belgium? Anyway, a bit later, this drunk guy comes up to me and he unfolds a team sheet and he goes, "Will you sign my autograph? Will you sign your autograph, please, on my team sheet?" And I said, "Yes, I will." Buzzing, mate. And I gave him, and he said, "Thank you, Sir Bobby."
Hey, it's not bad, that though, is it? It's not bad. It's not bad.
I was 53. He was 73.
It's quite bad.
Okay, I'm trying to make you feel better, but sorry.
Thank you, Sir Bobby.
Maybe you weren't having a knockabout earlier, were you? They might have saw you passing and thought.
So there you go.
Baz, I think we
that's the thrill of the book anyway, getting older and that, like, you know. So
the book I can't recommend either book, but the second book is what we're here to plug. Smelloffootball2.co.uk.
I'd come on if I hadn't written a book as well, you know. I would have come on if I hadn't written a book. But
you did.
It's really interesting in, because when I thought about writing the second book with that extra layer and the additional layer of getting old and becoming distanced and that, like, you know, I wanted to, because somebody asked me the other day, which is your favourite book of the two? And I actually said the second one, because usually the second book's like a watered down, rubbish, horrid version of the first book, like, you know. So I took really loads and loads of care, and I made sure it was a hardback, the same amount of words, the same quality paper, the same printing and everything and that, like, you know. So I really, 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 really was careful to make it as good as it could be. And I was really pleased that it got such good reviews, because I wanted it to be really good, because it would have been very easy to bring out a $5.99 paperback, you know, 20 pages, below SHIT. So I'm really proud of the second book. It sits side by side with the first, and there you go.
It does, and it shows. And I don't know whether you meant this, Baz, but for me, the first one was an autobiography. The second one feels more like a story. I'm so engrossed in reading it. I'm going through chapters and I can feel it. Not that I couldn't feel the first, but the first was very autobiography, where you've seen some players do that, some ex-players. But the second one, because it's not a playing career that you're talking about, it's your love of football and getting back into it. It's a fantastic read. It's a fantastic read. I'm an Evertonian, and I'm not just saying it. It's a fantastic read.
And it is all about the phenomenon of that phone call. I haven't got a job. I've got a job. And it's all about that, and it's that journey. It's those 10 clubs, and everyone seems to be part of a jigsaw that took me up that mountainside on that last kind of day, where I found something. I don't even know what it was, but I found it.
It's amazing, Baz. I've got one here. If you don't mind, I'm going to send it to you for the signature, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course, mate.
Absolutely, I'll be in touch on Twitter. Just two more questions, if you don't mind. We'll just go back to the blue side of the podcast, and if you don't want to answer the first one, I completely understand. But you're saying you were there during 2020 when the COVID happened and things, and one player for me as an Evertonian I've not seen enough of, Jean-Philippe Gbamin. Can he come back?
Yes, I've seen this before, and I would always say to young players, I think. JP, I think they call him. I think he's only 24, is he?
He's young.
He might even be 22, 23. So, yes, he can. And you say, oh, he's had A. Now he's had B. Now he's had C. There's no hope for the guy. I don't disagree. I don't agree. And I've seen lots of players have catastrophe, unrelated catastrophe, and then play 500 games. So, yes, he can come back.
Okay, I hope he does, because I think
by the way,
this Everton team needs.
I've seen a couple of live games recently. I watch all the Everton games, and give the guy a break. He needs 20, 30 games to get back. He's been
Yeah,
out
yeah.
for what, 3 years now with those 3 or 4 different injuries. I don't know the exact details of them. So he needs sympathy. He needs a lot of time. I remember once Moisey saying to me, one of the players come back from a cruciate, bloody hell, Baz, how long does it take to come back from this injury? You know, and the kind of perceived wisdom of managers, coaches, couple of games, 70 minutes, reserve game. And I said, 30 games. 30 games to come back from a cruciate to be anywhere near your best. And I think if you give that guy a break and that, like, you know, I know I'm not saying he's not been given a break and that, like, you know.
No, that's fair.
But I saw him play and he did okay. He didn't do great. But I thought where he's been and what he's been up to, that was a huge bonus to see him even out there starting games. And there'll be a lot more to come from that lad.
I hope so. And the final question, Baz, on the first podcast, we asked you for some stories and you give us them, whether it be Tommy Gravison, whether it be Gary Naismith and Steve Watson with your share. Big Duncan. Is there a moment that you will take from your second Everton career? Is the one that springs to mind that you can give us a story about?
Oh gosh. God. Oh gosh. I'm trying to think.
Prepping for this, Millsy.
Yeah. Oh God, I can't. Let me think, mate. Gosh, I can't think of one. I think probably just the Unzi one when I went to leave the club. You know, I could probably think of a few, but just off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything. I can't really think.
The Unzi one's a good story.
Yeah, it was. The Unzi one. I mean, maybe should have prepped it, but just to, okay, we'll do one more question if you don't mind, Baz. Evertonians now, like myself, I'm not going to lie, I'm excited by Anthony Gordon. Can he be a really top player?
He can be a top player, but when he went and signed for Preston, the guy from Preston said to him, "And how's Baz?" Anthony goes, "He's the happiest old guy I know." So, getting back to that thread, yeah, he could be a really good player, and he can't be a good player if you don't give him a chance, and he can't go from being promising to brilliant overnight. So there has to be those 10, 15, 20 games where he gets a bit better and maybe dips and gets a bit better. They have to think, right, this lad's worth persevering with. I think he is. He's showing signs now that he could be that one, the next to emerge for sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think me as an Evertonian, I think at the moment we need someone to come through. I think it's been a while really since someone came through. Tom Davies came through in 2016-17. He came through with a bang, that goal against Man City. Ross Barkley prior to him, Jack Rodwell. I think it's time that we got someone as Evertonians who just coming from that youth team, it gives the whole crowd a buzz. And it's great to hear you, Baz, say that Anthony Gordon could be that guy. I really hope he is. But look,
I hope so.
It's been a pleasure, Baz. Honestly,
I was going to say one final thing, mate. When Big Dunk took over and Big Dunk pulled the club in together, he'd come and sit and tell stories and that, and we'd reminisce and that, like. And I told Dunk a story he didn't know. And about 15 years ago, we were away in a hotel on a Friday night, and I was sat with David and the coaches and that, and Dunk was in the squad to travel, and they were discussing whether to start Duncan the next day, start him in a game. And there was obviously a lot of concern because he had so many surgeries, so many injuries and that, like, you know. And then Big Dunk came over to me and he wanted a sleeping tablet. And he whispered to me, Baz, can you get me a Zimmervane? Zimmervane's the name of the tablet. I said, yeah, I'll bring him up to your room. And he turned and walked away. And Moisey said to me, Baz, did he ask for a Zimmer frame? I said, no. Mate, that was such a laugh. I said, Zimmervane.
Oh, that's the best way to end the podcast. Honestly, the best way. Like I said, it's been a pleasure, Baz, for the second time.
One more Everton one.
Yes.
So I'm at Everton. I'm loving it. I'm accepted I'm in with the crowd. I'm in the Premier League. The lads seem to like me, which means the world to me. We're away in a camp. It's Christmas. We're at Mottram Hall. Richard Wright comes over and he goes, Baz, and the lads all came over before training. He goes, Baz, the lads like you so much, they bought you a present. And he handed me a wrapped up present. Oh my God, I teared up. The lads like me so much, they got me a present. I couldn't believe it. So all the lads have stood around like, you know, I opened it, and it was a load of second-hand hats and gloves. And what they'd done in the hotel, there was a collection of old woolen wear to go to the Turkish earthquake. And Richard Wright had gone under the tree, got one of the things and handed it to me and got me to unwrap it. So a bit of explaining to do, and I put them all back under the tree. So.
Oh no! Look, there's many more stories like that from Baz's first time at Everton. Over on acrosstheparkpodcast.co.uk, Baz gives us nearly 90 minutes talking about his first Everton career. Any Evertonian, if you haven't listened to that, please get over to the website and listen to it. It's full of great Everton stories. And tonight, we hope we've brought you some more, but it's all about the smell of football too. Please get over. The link is below, just below Baz's face now, the smell of football too.co.uk. It is a fantastic book. It's a stock and filler for any football fan, not just an Evertonian. That's the reason Phil's on here as well. Phil's read it. Phil loves it. He's gonna give it to his Evertonian friends as well and his family. Yes, yeah, Phil has got Evertonian friends and family.
Buy their own, Phil. I'd rather they buy their own. We don't want to be giving the one copy around, do we? we don't want to be around the Gladys Street end, do we? No. But thank you very much. I've really enjoyed it. I would come on any time. It's not about the book. I'd always come on anyway. So thank you very much.
Baz, you've got an open invite. But please, anybody down to the website, the smelloffootball2.co.uk. Baz is over on the Twitter at mickrathbone.co.uk. Baz, thank you so much for joining us once again on Across the Park podcast.
Thank you very much, guys. Goodbye.